One is called the mass phishing. One is called the spear phishing. So mass is like you throw the net in the sea to see any fishes got hooked, then probably that's the amount of fish that you get. Whereas for spear phishing, it's more on the targeted victims. So as I mentioned earlier, you will study out the customers or the victim itself, get to know the environment, what they are using, then you create that particular attack specific for this user's self. So how do we spot in terms of phishing? Probably in even for your personal emails, you will receive it from time to time. There's a PayPal, especially probably from your Apple iPhones as well, stated that probably your account got suspended and you're required to key in your information or click onto the link to do something about it, or try to recover to avoid a permanent disabling or etc. So normally they will always impersonate themselves in terms of banks, requires transactions, or even like revenue and customs informations that require you to do an actions of it. So they are very good in capturing users' attention, something that scare off the users that if you don't do this or you don't act fast, then you have to have certain things that you need to be compromised with. So of course, as mentioned, spear phishing probably is targeted. So it knows your name, it knows the information, what do you do, and probably send you a very similar of how your day-to-day conversations by your colleagues or even by your managers. Right, so if you look into this for the past 2 years, 2016, 2017, there's a rise of phishing volumes. So you down to 21 millions in terms of statistics, you can notice on that. So there are more and more spam emails these days, increasing to all the business as well as the mailboxes. So, and statistics as well by experience, all right? Email benchmark report, it shows that 20% phish attacks, more 5 times of users tends to click on the phishing attacks. As I mentioned earlier, what happened is the phishing emails tends to be very real these days, and it always targeted to captures psychologicals of humans. You have to click on this link, it's like there's something or a delivery parts for you. You have to click into this link to retrieve it, or before you get suspended, or you might have a penalty and things like that. So these are all things that always capture the users compared to the marketing emails that you receive or any business emails that you receive from time to time. So surprisingly, in 41% of IT pros reported that at least daily phishing attacks. Okay, so based hourlies, dailies, and weeklies. So there are agreement in terms of phishing attacks is increasingly from day to day itself. And of course, you look at the right-hand side here, there are 62% of organizations actually failed to create the user awareness. So this is the statistics by the Freeform Dynamics in 2017. So if you notice here, the majority of the information here is actually what is the objective of the user of the attackers. What they do, the phishing is they always is looking to financially. So they try to trick the users to provide probably a transfer a certain amount of money or credit cards informations, or percentage will be on the credentials informations where the attackers can actually collect it and sell it in the dark web. So before we continue in terms of products, let's choose some of the how the bad guys works. So in order to protect or create awareness first, then we need to know what's the criminal mind. So this is to understand how the attackers works in terms of trying to phish. So give an example. This will be one of the news by CNN Money, for example, right? So Snapchat probably is make a very, very huge debut in terms of the IPO markets. So information here shown that the taxi apps, Sky Hotels, and To Protect Net probably could actually reach out to the IPO as well because of the good histories of apps, All right. So if the attackers read this information, this could be public to all of them. Okay. I'll take this. I'll do a quick Google check on the Total Protect Net, for example. Then I'll receive that, oh, Michael Jackson is actually the new CFO for this new tech for upcoming IPO. So this is a piece of article, very informative, but it's dangerous as well. Because for attackers, I know that this is new CFO, means the employees in this company might not be very familiar with him, or is actually very new. Then I can actually go a quick search on the LinkedIn for Michael Jackson. So I know that he's a CFO for Total Protect, probably started on a few weeks back. Then of course, we have a very good functionalities in LinkedIn as well, telling you that, oh, there's this John Smith is actually related to Total Protect as well. So his accounts. So what he does is actually, his job description is actually invoicing processing. So this gives an idea to the bad guys to know that, oh, he is the guy who actually do the processing. Then I would probably, this is my target victim. So once you collect all the information, this is on the delivery part. If you notice on this email, you notice there is a slightly differences in terms of the email domain. All right. So this will be 5 points that the attackers would normally do. First, I'll do spoofing of the email domain. All right. So it's a total-protect instead of totalprotect.net. Then I'll try to personalize it. So I know that, I start calling you like John. Then the relevance of it, because I'll be asking the questions that are related to your job descriptions, because I know that you do invoice processing, means I know that you are the person in charge in doing that. Then I'll try to isolate this particular email from the rest. So I'll put some information, for example, your team is under NDA, so it's a confidential information that you're not supposed to share with the rest of your team. And of course, you put in some pressure, which is state that this will be the urgency of that email. All right. So it seems to be a very simple or rather emails by one of your management to ask a request for you to do a certain thing. All right. Then of course, if you manage to get a hook, John in finance, probably say, yeah, I'll start replying. If let's say John is not aware enough to look into domain, I will just automatically reply and say, yes, I'm available. So you start processing with the conversation. So of course, then the CFO then will eventually say that, oh, these are the bank accounts, which are the users, and what's the amount. But normally, if let's say I'll do it on non-working hours or probably on the weekends, these things actually would be delayed. Then the attackers will actually eventually try to pressure by putting a pressure to the John, stated that, oh, do you send a payment? Or if let's say not expecting a reply, they could even more pressure. So as an employee, for example, right? Your CFO has been pressuring you to asking you that, what's the status of this job or task that he requests? Definitely, any employees, if let's say we are not aware of it, we will actually comply. So we'll do it as soon as possible. And of course, attack successful in this case. So the information or the payment has been made to this particular account. So this is one of the example how exactly the phish traps works, how they're able to phish in terms of that. So the attackers are very smart enough to actually understand how the humans' behavior, how are we able to get tricked. If let's say we are not aware of it, then once we get hooked, then we are easily get scammed. So if back in the real world, these are some of the news and information. You notice that in Hong Kong, 1.5 billion per year so far, the information has been leaked out, or money has been transferred to an unknown account. They got tricked by the employees. Okay, right. So then we'll throw back to this question: is okay, how is Salesforce able to help All right, since we know that how exactly the attacker works, how they know that they do the social engineering, as well as show you the example of how they can able to trick. So these things is so-called fish threats is as simple as 3 steps. Okay, 3 simple steps. One is to start choosing an attack. So what kind of attack? So out there is over hundreds of customized templates. So you can actually customize it. All right, these are templates that you're able to use to simulate an attack. So as you are on behalf of your company, you want to do this campaign to help out to create an education and awareness for your employees. All right, this could be a great help in terms of that. All right, so once you choose an attack, then you can actually start choosing a training. So what kind of training courses you want to be? So this training courses covers up in terms of your compliances as well. What is ransomware? What is fish threats? And etc. in terms of things like that. Then of course the last steps will basically on the monitoring portions. So once you deliver all this information starting on this campaign, you will able to notify in terms of monitoring how many users has been clicked on the email, how many users actually got hooked up, and etc. All right, so if you look into this, this is basically how the Sophos Central Dashboard. So if you are a Sophos users, existing customers, probably you're already exposed to this dashboard. All right, so you look at the left-hand side under my products, fish threats is part of this central dashboard. All right, so it's seamless. Basically, you just have to log into your central account. Fish threats is available there, and it's actually available for 30 days trial as well. Okay, so once you click it in, it does not require to have any additional login. It's seamless. Straight away from a central account, you click on the fish threats, it goes on to the fish threats dashboard. This will be the dashboard, covers up in terms of your campaigns, your open rates, and your factor, and how many users got caught. I will actually cover up more in details in the later slides, right? So if you look in the left-hand side, there is a manage people and campaign. So as I mentioned, it's as easy as 3 steps. All you have to do is just start clicking to the campaign. You give your wizards, that's where you start creating the campaign, how you want it to be, and start customizing it. First, you put in the name of your campaign. Then you can choose your campaign if you want to start phishing it or you want to provide a training first. Okay, normally we would recommend to actually go for a baseline of checking, meaning that we want to know what's the level of user awareness in your environment. So we go for a phishing. Then you, of course, there is 9 different languages for you to choose. So more to come in the future of versions, but this will be the 9 languages available. So once you click into next, this will be the list of attacks available. And of course, there is up to hundreds of attacks templates. And of course, you can actually choose in terms of the difficulty level as well. Okay, so there is an easy mode, moderate, and hard. So this actually helps you if, let's say, you will go on with these fish threats as your employees or users start growing with this fish threats or education of it. Then you can actually start going harder and harder to test out how much awareness they can build within that period of time. Right. So in this case, probably I would just choose one of it, probably the DHL field delivery. If you notice that the templates are well designed exactly how the normal company and vendor works. So once you click into this, then you can actually customize it. You can actually click into what domain you want it to be. So if you want to impersonate something that's similar to how your company email works, then of course you can actually customize in your domain, as well as editing in terms of that particular body of that email. You can actually put it in the link, the recipient, who's the username as well, and all the information from there. Once you're able to customize an attack, this is the next, which is on the training. As I mentioned, if you are the new users, first we always recommend to do a baseline phishing. So once you have a baseline of it, results of the baseline, then you know that which level can you proceed. And this training comes after. So what happened is, if the users don't manage to click into or got caught, right? So this training will actually prompt in and tell them or teach them. They have to run through the training to understand all these informations out there. For example, like phishing attacks overview, social engineering, ransomware, or any etc. of that. So there is a toggle button here, so you can actually off it or you enable it as well. So once it's done, you have your campaign customized, you have your training included as well, then you want to enroll it to your users. So as simple as that, if you're in the Sophos, probably you have your AD sync with your Sophos Central, or you can have this sync as well, or the information could be included. So you can select either based on users or based on groups as well. So let's say you have AD sync, you have a container, all this information can just put it there, and as simple as check on that groups and click it to as a recipient of that. So once you enroll, then the next thing will state it on the scheduling. So it's up to you how you want it to be, because you can schedule the time when you want to launch this campaign. Some of them want to do it during the business hours or during the peak hours, for example, month end. Okay, month end, you want to test on your accounts team or finance team, because these are the month end where they have a lot of closings. They need to click into lots of invoices and information to do. So this could be the best time for you to blend in, to test them, see how much awareness they are when they're doing their job as well. So you can do the setting increment as well. So you want to enroll to all the users or based on groups to groups. Right. So once everything's sent, the information straight away will prompt on the dashboard. All right. So you look into, for example, like January phishing campaign, okay, there are 30 emails sent. So give you a percentage of how many emails been sent. You can actually schedule that the start date as end date as well, probably let's say a week or 2 weeks. Then you have a list of how many emails been opened. All right, so 77% emails has been opened, so which is 10 of the emails. Then how many users got caught? So 7 users got caught. This will be on January campaign, and of course, probably on moving forward month to month, you have a second campaign on February. Then you notice that how many emails compared to the first month, and you can do a comparison in terms of charts as well, right? So this gives you an ROI as well, because what happened is you can actually notify in terms of the click rate, how much has been increased in a globally average, all right? Then it will tell you that are you on the high risk? Then of course, awareness of the factors as well. 64% of the users tested, then is it considered poor? Then from there, you can actually do this statistically and provide the information. Then you do monthly and do a comparison of it. Then of course, at the bottom here, there will be the caught users. If users have, let's say, you're running this campaign for 4 times and the user got caught for 3 times instead, then you need to ensure that they run the training. Or else, if let's say they still run the training and how does it happen, then from there you can actually do some. This could provide you as a solid evidence for you to do an actions or even provide a warning letters for the users, because they are putting your informations or your company at risk. Right, so good news is this is based on what we have seen on the real data. All right, so new users, probably there are 13% of users got caught, And 4 tests later, we can notice that there is a reduces of users because they tends to be able to be more aware of all these phishing emails. So it's pretty simple, okay? As I mentioned, this license actually for users model, all right? So there is unlimited of tests. There are available campaigns and trainings available. So there is not calculated based on campaigns. It's based on the user licenses. You can run as many campaigns as possible. Everything is under a single pane of management. It's under Software Central itself. Okay, so this gives a multiple layers of protection as well, compared rather than just the firewall portions on the network. We have the next generation endpoint for which is the InterceptX, and this portion is one of the delivery portions that I mentioned earlier on the life cycle. Then, of course, further enhancement will utilize the training results. So it gives you an update to protections and policies of user devices. Right. So that's the end for my presentations. So we will open up for questions.
Hi, Isaac. So we do have a few questions here. So one of them is actually, how can the simulated phishing attacks bypass the anti-spam filter? Sorry.
Okay, so whenever we are going to implement the Sophos fish threat, right? So in order to implement and to ensure the delivery of emails onto the user inbox, there are 2 IP addresses that need to be whitelisted in your anti-spam gateway. That will ensure the safe delivery in the user inbox. And then the user behavior will come into the picture, whether he is judgmental enough to take the informed decision to open that email or to report that email as a phishing threat. So the key is whitelisting of the Sophos fish threat IP addresses in the anti-spam gateway.
Okay. Thanks, Rishi. We also have another question.
Okay.
I am not yet a Sophos user. How can I evaluate the phishing campaign?
Right. So the good part of this particular phishing campaign is you doesn't need to have a capex in place. It is a totally opex model. So you just need to invoke the Sophos trial, which is available onto the cloud.sophos.com. And in that, the solution is fish threat. And you can start using that fish threat in a single go. So it is a completely a cloud-based offering with no investment in terms of you don't have to maintain any servers on premise. So by default, the licensing is available for 25 email boxes for the trial purpose.
Okay, thank you, Rishi.
Yeah.
And for all the audience on the call, if you have any questions, you can start putting it in here because we have still another 30 minutes based on the schedule. So we are free to answer any questions. So another question that we have here is, apart from user awareness and training, what should our strategy be to prevent phishing or BEC emails?
Right. So the main focus of this fish threat is in terms of the end user training and the awareness, because the end user behavior is the weakest link in the complete security chain. So, and it is more focused onto the end user behavior capture, right? So now coming to the business email compromise, right? And apart from the regular phishing emails, we definitely need to have the anti-spam solution at the email gateway, whether you have hosted your email services onto the Microsoft O365 or onto the Google Suite, right? So there you need to have the anti-spam, the anti-malware scanning capability, and the integration with the APT, or I will say the sandboxing part, so that the emails can be filtered in a very genuine manner, right? And only the genuine emails will be delivered to the inbox, right?
Okay. Another question, how can I stop phishing if user by mistake click on the link?
Right. So if the user clicks onto that particular link, right? So if I correlate this particular incident to the Sophos email part, so in that, if you're using the Sophos email as a protection mechanism for your email part, then we have the option of just-in-click time protection. So if the users has clicked onto the malicious link as well, right? So in that case, we are able to guide the user like this is a malicious link. So if it is of a highly bad reputation, on that scoring basis, we block that link, right? And at the same time, if it is a drive-by downloads, so you have clicked on a link which was a very genuine one, and now that genuine link is redirecting to some another page. In that case, the endpoint security will come into the picture of Sophos. So security should be implemented in a layered manner. It should be a layered approach. The reason being, once the email has come up, right, now the attachment which is coming up and then doing the malicious activity, the one layer is scanning at the email scanning itself. Second is, if it has come up still, right, so then the end user security component will come into the picture, which is your normal anti-malware scanning at the endpoint as well. So the complete focus should be onto the layered security approach, because there is no silver bullet in terms of a single solution catering to all the kind of a threats. So the two things, the one is the anti-spam at the gateway, right, and the endpoint security at the laptop or the desktop. So it should be like that combination, powered by Sophos Fish Threat, which is more focused onto the end user training and awareness.
Okay, another question, for licensing by per name user, how do we account for staff turnover?
Okay, so the licensing of this particular solution Fish Threat is based on the number of email boxes. So if you want to target, or you can say if you have a email IDs of 2000 employees in your mail server, right? So in that case, you need to go for 2000 licenses of Fish Threat. And you can increase the intensity of the campaigns, like going for a simple phishing or a spam campaign, then going for a credential harvesting kind of attack or a kind of a attachment campaign. You can always increase the intensity. And in the license part, it is a subscription based for 1 year, 2 year, or 3 years. And in that particular time frame of the subscription, you can do the unlimited number of campaigns. There is no restriction onto the number of campaigns.
And then what levels of campaigns does the tool have? When I say levels, normally the phishings are also done to execute some macros connected to the email or download executables, etc.
Right. So as I said, there are three type of intensity levels that you can have in the fish threat. So the first is the normal spam campaign, and second is the attachment campaign. So even if the file is the Microsoft Word file, even if you enable the macros in that, right, you will get the analytics for the that activity as well. So this particular solution is designed to capture that as well in the attachment campaign.
Does the solution support Office 365 mailboxes as well?
Yes, it supports.
And then I think we have an end user here who's asking, we are using Sophos for client as well as server. Can we enable this feature, and what is the process?
Right. So if you are using the Sophos endpoint and the server security for via Sophos Central, right, then you can just invoke the license on a trial basis in the same dashboard. And when you go for a purchase as well, the same dashboard will help you to manage the fish threat as well. So it will help you to have a more return of investment, because there is no additional thing to be bought in terms of the new interface, because if you're using the Sophos Central, it is a platform by which you can manage the multiple products of Sophos.
Okay. Is it supported for cloud-based email access also?
Yes, it does.
Yes. Okay, and then let's see. I think there is still one more question. do you have trainings connected to these topics?
Yes, there are multiple training modules which are available. Like if you talk about the ransomware part, right? So we do have the training module specifically for the ransomware. Now the GDPR also came into the picture a few months back. So along with that, we have also introduced the GDPR focused training module as well. So the training modules gets updated on a regular basis. I hope that answers the question, right?
Yes, and then another question, can we sync Sophos UTM with it?
Not the Sophos UTM, but you can do the integration with the Sophos XT firewall. So if you talk about the Sophos SG UTM, in that we don't have the integration, but if it is XT firewall, we can do that.
Okay, another question, which system OS endpoint is supported in Sophos?
Sorry, come again, which endpoint?
Which system OS?
Okay, so if you talk about the Sophos endpoint security, we do support the Windows, Mac, and the Linux, all the 3 platforms.
Then will user also be notified when he or she clicks on the malicious link or answers an email which is not legitimate?
Yes, you can do have the option to enable that as well. Otherwise, it will be a kind of a stealth mode as well, because if the user knows, right? So the one way is like if I'm the user, I have clicked onto that malicious email, it will give me a pop-up like you have been means a victim of the phishing campaign. So you're not very judgmental to take a call whether to open that email or not. As the user has been captured now, so he has to go with the training module, and after the training module he has to answer 5 questions. On that basis he will be evaluated as well.
Okay, do we need add required or AD required, or can we enable without AD?
Yes, we can enable that without Active Directory as well. So the number of email users which need to be enrolled in the fish threat phishing campaign. So you can have the details in a CSV format that can be uploaded in the Sophos portal, and through that also we can enroll them. So it will work independently of Active Directory as well.
And then there's a good question here. How fish protection, which I think here means fish threat, is different from email protection offered by Sophos?
Right. So as I said earlier, like the you can say the anti-spam protection by Sophos is a different solution which will definitely block the spamming and the phishing mails. But this fish threat is more focused onto the end user training and awareness, right? So it is not going to block anything at the endpoint level, but it will give you the analytics of the user behavior. For example, like whenever the new year and the Christmas comes up, right? So all the emails are flooded with multiple marketing campaigns, right? So we are not able to judge whether it is a genuine mail or a phishing email. So the same mechanism, we draft that email and we check the user analytics, because if he is not well educated, he can compromise the corporate data. For example, the ransomware as a incident, right? So the biggest source of the ransomware is still the email, because the users are not educated enough whether to take a call, whether it is a malicious email or a genuine email, because now it has come onto their inbox. So there also the due diligence is required, where the Sophos fish threat will help to educate the user so that he take the informed decision while opening any of the email, because email is still the biggest business communication mechanism as well, right? So we need to ensure the user will open only the genuine emails. If he has a doubt, the security team can also help him out, because in a fish threat you also get an Outlook plugin in which you can report it as a fish as well, means a phishing email to the security team.
Hey, Rishi, we have also another good question here. How many agents can deploy under one user license, like if they're having multiple devices?
Right. So if I talk about, I think this particular question is more focused onto the endpoint part. So if I am a single user and I am logging onto the multiple desktops or the laptops, so the license count is still one, because the Sophos cloud licensing is based on the number of users, not onto the number of devices. And in contrast to that, if I talk about the Sophos on-premise solution, which is the Sophos Enterprise Console, so in that case, the same licensing will work. So it is user-based. And for the servers, it is the number of servers based.
Okay, and then is the phishing module, can it be included into SG Firewall or into Sophos endpoint?
Yes, with the XG firewall as well, we can have the integration, right? And if I talk about the manageability as well, the Sophos Cloud or the Sophos Central is the platform by which we can manage the multiple solution of Sophos, be it the endpoint, be it the email, be it the phish threat or the MTM or the access points. And we also integrate the Sophos Central with the XG firewall for the synchronized security concept, in which we share the threat intelligence from endpoint to the perimeter and the reverse, from perimeter to the endpoint.
Okay, and then I think let's just take a few last questions. Is there any solution for smartphones?
Yes, we do have the solution for the smartphone. The solution is called as Sophos Mobile, and in that Sophos Mobile, what we support Android, iOS, Windows, and the Mac OS as a platform, and it is a complete MDM kind of a functionality which is offered: mobile application management, mobile content management, mobile email management, and with mobile security. So these are the components that we cover under a Sophos Mobile. And we also term it as a Sophos Unified Endpoint Management, right? So we do the support the smartphones as well. And the solution is Sophos Email.
Okay, let's just wait another 2 minutes. So I think there are some questions about the template language. Does it support Germany and simplified Chinese?
In that we support the multiple, like English, German is also supported, and the traditional Chinese is also supported as a language.
Yeah, just not, yeah. So in terms of Chinese language, what is supported is traditional Chinese.
Right.
I think with that, for most of the questions related to phishing, we've actually answered it. So for the rest of the questions that we did not manage to answer, we will actually address this separately to you. We've also recorded this session and a copy of the webinar will be sent to you. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to the Sophos team as well. Thank you today to everyone who has joined the call, and we will be responding to the questions we've not managed to answer. So a big thank you to Isaac and Rishi today to supporting this webinar, and do look out for the next one that we are planning in October itself, and look forward to having you with us in the next webinar. With that, I'll end this session. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, everyone.